couple weeks into that strange in-between summer, the one after high school before life really begins, I thought I was untouchable. No classes, no schedules, just open roads and a restless kind of freedom that makes you believe nothing bad could touch you. Where I grew up in Wyoming, we had this unofficial tradition. Graduates would head out to the plateaus, climb rocks, drink a little, and stare down at the world they were about to leave behind. We told ourselves it was a rite of passage, but looking back, it feels more like we were trespassing into something we didn't fully understand. There were 4 of us that day. Maya, the driver with a beat-up Jeep she treated like royalty. Ethan, my oldest friend. Ryan, always cracking jokes. And me. We'd been planning the trip for weeks. For Maya, it was about the climb. For the rest of us, it was about the beer waiting at the top. The drive out was beautiful, in that wide-open Wyoming way. Sunburnt skies, cliffs that looked like broken bones sticking out of the earth. Silence so deep, it felt alive. We stopped at Flaming Gorge to take in the view, but the real goal was finding our own hidden spot, something untouched. Eventually, off Highway 141, we spotted it. A jagged rock face rising up out of nowhere, tempting us. It wasn't Everest, but it was just challenging enough to feel like we'd earned the view. Maya parked in a gravel patch. We grabbed our gear and started climbing. She led the way, then me, then Ryan, and Ethan in the back, cursing under his breath, but following anyway. The top was worth every scrape. From up there, Wyoming stretched endlessly in all directions, so wide it made you dizzy. We cracked open beers, laughed, and for a moment, it felt like we were the only people left in the world. That's when I saw it. A red pickup truck tearing down the highway, dust trailing behind it like smoke. It passed Maya's Jeep, then, without warning, slammed on the brakes. Tires screamed. The truck stopped dead, then started reversing in the middle of the road. What the hell is he doing? Ethan asked. We all went silent. The truck backed into the gravel lot and parked right next to Maya's Jeep. A man got out, tall, older, heavy-shouldered. From our height, he was just a silhouette. At first, I thought maybe he was another climber, but then, the way he circled the Jeep told a different story. He wasn't admiring it. He was testing it, peering in windows, tugging at handles. Ryan shouted down, "Hey, that's our car." His voice echoed across the empty highway. The man jerked like he'd been caught, then lifted his head toward us and smiled. He actually waved. For a split second, I thought maybe it was nothing. Maybe he'd walk away. But instead, he kept going. Maya shouted until her voice cracked. Ethan threw in threats, swearing we were armed. That's when the man stopped and yelled back. His voice carried up the plateau like broken glass. "Me too, kid." He lifted something in the air. The shape was unmistakable. A gun. The world tilted in that moment. Time split in two. Before the gun, and after. The man began smashing at the Jeep's windows with his elbow. The sound carried all the way to the top. Dull thuds followed by the sickening crack of shattering glass. Maya snapped. She charged down the rocks, not caring about her footing. We all followed, hearts slamming in our throats. By the time we hit the ground, he had the gun leveled at us. "Stop. Hands up." I froze. The 4 of us raised our hands like marionettes. My skin crawled with the certainty that if any one of us twitched, we'd die right there in the gravel. Wallets, phones, on the ground. His voice was steady, practiced. This wasn't his first time. We obeyed, watching him scoop up our lives piece by piece while never lowering that weapon. Up close, I caught his face, mid-50s, beard gone patchy gray, sun-cracked skin, eyes dead as stone, the kind of face you'd never remember in a lineup, which made him even scarier. Then, like it was an afterthought, he pulled a knife and drove it into Maya's tire. Air hissed out, our last escape flattening before us. He climbed back into the truck. I noticed then it had no plates, and drove off. No threats, no warning, just gone. The silence afterward was unbearable. The plateau, once so open and freeing, now felt like a cage. We scrambled to fix the tire, hands shaking too hard to get the bolts right. Every minute felt like a countdown to him returning. When we finally sped off, he was long gone. By the time we reached town and reported it, the police barely pretended to care. No plates, no name, no chance. That day should have been a memory of freedom, our first step into adulthood. Instead, it was the day I learned just how quickly freedom can become a trap, and how some people out there wait for kids like us to stumble into their hunting ground. My name is Sophia. This happened 3 years ago when I was 19. My older brother Ethan had just finished college in California, and we decided to drive back home to New Jersey together. Ethan had spent 4 years collecting everything from his cramped apartment, books, electronics, furniture, so flying wasn't an option. But honestly, that wasn't the main reason for the road trip. The idea of crossing the country felt like a personal adventure, a summer escape from the walls of home and academia. We could have taken the direct route through Nevada and Colorado, but Ethan wanted to see the landscapes he'd only studied in textbooks. I'd never witnessed Zion or the Grand Canyon, so we chose the scenic southern path. Ethan insisted on renting a U-Haul instead of shipping his belongings. Typical recent graduate logic, save money wherever possible. The truck wasn't enormous, but driving it across the country made us feel like tiny voyagers on a vast, lonely road. Before we left, our parents, travel forums, and even local guides all echoed the same warning. New Mexico could be tricky. Stories of scams, petty crime, and eerie, deserted stretches weren't uncommon. Dad's advice was simple. Don't stop unless necessary. Stick to major stations and get back on the highway immediately. We agreed. Fill up in Arizona, speed through New Mexico, and rest once we hit Texas. Simple. The first part of the trip was magical. Zion's cliffs and the Grand Canyon's vastness were breathtaking. Arizona's desert had a strange beauty, the kind that makes you feel small in the grand scheme of things. But somewhere in remote New Mexico, reality began to warp. Ethan miscalculated the U-Haul's gas mileage. The gauge dropped faster than expected, 40 miles to the next station, below a quarter tank. Panic began to creep in. A small town appeared on the GPS just 10 miles ahead. It seemed harmless at first. Run-down buildings, a few locals lingering in the streets, the air heavy with an unnatural stillness. No other travelers in sight. The kind of town where the sun feels like it's hiding. At the gas station, lingering stares from a few locals made my skin crawl. One man leaned against the building, cigarette in hand, watching us in a way that was unsettling, almost predatory. I told myself it was normal, outsiders in a U-Haul, but the tension didn't ease. When we tried to return to the highway, it was as if the town itself refused to let us leave. Roads twisted, dead-ended, or led us deeper into the maze. Google Maps was useless. Outdated, glitching, dead zones everywhere. Ethan's calm facade began to crack, replaced by the kind of frustration that edges on fear. We returned to the gas station, desperate, and Ethan asked for directions. The clerk gave them, but the route was strange, unnecessarily convoluted. 17 miles away from the highway, through deserted back roads. His tone was too confident, his questions about our journey too probing. Back in the van, fear settled like a stone in my stomach. Then, a dusty pickup truck pulled alongside us. Its driver asked if we were lost. Ethan cautiously explained our route, repeating the clerk's bizarre directions. The man's expression darkened. He warned us not to follow them, describing the area as a known drug-running corridor, then gave us a safer, alternate route. Before we could respond, he was gone. Following his directions, we found a barely visible gravel road leading back to the highway. It was convoluted, unintuitive, and yet it worked. We didn't speak much after that. Even now, the memory of that town lingers. The oppressive stillness, the circular streets, the lurking sense of being watched. Ethan calls it a breathless limbo, a place where suffocation feels imminent, even if the air is clear. I've never felt that same dread anywhere else. I hope I never will. Five summers ago, I traveled to Europe with my girlfriend at the time. Let's call her Lena. She had just graduated college and I had finished a year prior. Though we aren't together anymore, there's no bitterness between us. The memories of that summer, however, remain etched in my mind in a way I'll never forget. Lena was half Croatian, half Brazilian, and she'd spent years dreaming of visiting her ancestral homeland. The plan was simple in her mind: a week exploring Croatia, ending with 2 nights in Rijeka, her grandparents' hometown. She had never been there, but had grown up hearing her grandmother's stories of winding streets, sea breezes, and family history. Her excitement was palpable, a kind that made planning every detail feel urgent and vital. Money was tight, painfully so. Hotels were out of the question, and even modest hostels were too expensive. We opted for the cheapest Airbnbs and lodges we could find. 1-star ratings, blurry photos, barely functioning Wi-Fi. Yet, we didn't care. Just being there felt like a victory. Zagreb and Dubrovnik were a whirlwind of sun, history, and throngs of tourists. It was easy to blend in, find cheap food, and chase the illusion of adventure. But Rijeka was different. Nestled on the northern coast, it wasn't a tourist destination. Walking the streets, Lena and I stood out. We were clearly foreigners, and the locals' gazes lingered longer than expected. Not hostile, exactly, just heavy. Observant. Watching. Our first day passed with cautious exploration. Lena spoke enough Croatian to navigate conversations. I picked up snippets here and there. People seemed polite but reserved. The atmosphere was subtle yet unsettling, a quiet tension beneath ordinary interactions. On the second day, we ventured toward a small seafood restaurant, recommended by a local. A 15-minute walk through narrow residential streets brought us there. The place was tiny, almost forgotten, with handwritten menus and the aroma of fresh fish wafting into the street. We ordered generously, laughing at our overconfidence in a city we barely knew. Then they arrived. 5 men, rough-looking, each with the aura of danger that can't be faked. They sat just 2 tables away, speaking in low tones, occasionally glancing our way. Lena went suddenly quiet. Her eyes darted past me, tracking something invisible. She whispered almost urgently, "We need to leave, now." I froze, unwilling to question her. She was reading the room in a way I couldn't. I dropped a stack of cash on the table, grabbed her hand, and we bolted. The moment we stepped outside, I understood. The men were following. Their steps echoed in the empty streets, deliberate and measured. Heart hammering, lungs burning. I ran beside Lena, turning corners at random, hoping to reach the denser, busier part of town. Minutes stretched into a blur. Adrenaline distorted time. Finally, headlights, traffic, and other pedestrians. Safety in numbers. The men stopped, watching from a distance, their intentions clear but restrained by the crowd. We collapsed at a cafe in the main square, shaking, gasping, adrenaline still coursing. Lena hid tears behind her hand. An older Croatian man at a nearby table leaned over, concern etched into his face. After hearing our story, he shook his head. "Tourists are idiots for wandering into that neighborhood," he said quietly. "The restaurant we'd visited," he explained, "was a notorious hangout for organized crime. Police," he warned, "wouldn't intervene. The law rarely touched places like that." Then he paid for his coffee and walked away, leaving us stunned, grateful, and shaken to our core. The remainder of our trip was cautious, confined to city centers, counting the hours until our flight home. Looking back, Lena's instinct and understanding of the language likely saved us. That day in Rijeka turned a normal vacation into a life-altering lesson. In an unfamiliar place, danger can arrive in an instant, often where you least expect it. Even now, thinking about those empty streets, the lingering gazes, and the adrenaline-fueled escape, I feel the same tension tighten in my chest. It's a reminder that curiosity can carry you far, but it can also put you in harm's way, especially in a city that quietly keeps its secrets.